Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're diving into the Remington Model 870 shotgun. Now I'll admit firearms aren't really my forte, but I'm definitely eager to learn.
You've come to the right place.
And to help us with that, we've got an expert who knows a thing or two about the 870. So let's start with the basics. What makes the Remington 870 such a big deal in the world of firearms?
The 870 has an incredible legacy. It's been in production for over 70 years, with something like over 10 million produced. I mean, that kind of popularity speaks for itself, really. It's used by everyone, from hunters and sport shooters to law enforcement agencies and even militaries all over the world.
So we're talking global impact here. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But what exactly led to that success? Was it just a matter of being in the right place at the right time, or did the 870 bring something new to the table?
Timing always plays a part, but the 870's success really boils down to its design. It's a direct descendant of a line of Remington pump-action shotguns.
You're saying it had predecessors.
Oh, absolutely. It all started with the Remington Model 10, and then came the Model 29 and the Model 17, which was actually designed by John Browning himself. But the one most closely related to the 870 is the Model 31.
So why didn't the Model 31 become the icon?
The Model 31 was a great shotgun, known for its quality and smooth action, but it had a major drawback. It was really expensive to produce. You see, it relied on a lot of hand fitting. Just couldn't compete on price with other shotguns on the market, particularly the Winchester Model 12.
So the 870 came in and shook things up.
Exactly. In 1950, Remington realized they needed a shotgun that could keep up with the times, something more modern, more affordable, but just as reliable. And that's how the Model 870 was born.
All right, time to get into the nitty-gritty. What were some of the key design features that set the 870 apart?
One of the things that makes it stand out is its bottom-loading, side-ejecting receiver paired with a tubular magazine that runs under the barrel. It's a design that's both super reliable and easy to use, making loading and unloading a breeze.
You mentioned a tubular magazine, meaning it can hold multiple rounds.
It can. The capacity depends on the specific Model 870 and any legal restrictions that might be in place. But yeah, it can hold quite a few rounds, plus one in the chamber.
So built-in adaptability, interesting. What other design elements contributed to the 870's success?
Well, it utilizes dual action bars, which essentially connect the pump handle to the bolt. Now, having two bars instead of just one provides extra strength and ensures smoother operation. Then there's the internal hammer and a robust bolt locking mechanism, all designed to ensure safety during firing. And it's worth pointing out that Remington actually borrowed some design elements from their other successful firearms.
Borrowed how?
For example, the action, the receiver, and the fire control group are very similar to what you'd find in Remington's Model 7600 rifles and even their 1148 automatic shotgun. And get this, some parts like the buttstocks and magazine tubes can actually be swapped with the Remington 1100 and 1187 semi-automatic shotguns.
That's pretty ingenious. I've seen all sorts of 870s over the years, all shapes and sizes. Are they all built the same way underneath, even if they look different?
That's the beauty of it. They all share the same core platform, but there are literally hundreds of variations of the Remington 870 out there.
Hundreds. Wow. What are the main things that differentiate them?
The biggest difference you'll usually see is the gauge, which refers to the diameter of the shotgun bore. The 800 comes in 12, 16, 20, 28 gauges, and even .410 bore. On top of that, you have different barrel lengths, different finishes, different furniture. That's the stock and fore, and specialized features depending on what the gun's intended purpose is.
Okay, I'm starting to see how you get to hundreds of variations. It's like a Lego set for firearms. You mentioned gauges. Could you break that down a bit more? I know it relates to the size of the shell, but I'm not exactly sure how it all works.
Sure. Think of it this way. The gauge is inversely related to the size of the shell. So a 12-gauge shotgun has a larger bore diameter than a 20-gauge, which means it fires a larger shell. And this is really important with the Model 870. You have to make sure you're using the right shell length for both the receiver and the barrel. Otherwise, things could get dangerous.
So you can't just use any shell in any 870?
Nope, not at all. Some 12-gauge 870s, for instance, can handle those powerful 3-inch Magnum shells, while others are made for the standard 2 34-inch shells. Mixing them up could be a recipe for disaster.
Got it. Always double-check those specs. Can you give me some examples of these variations in action? Like, what makes one 870 better for deer hunting versus clay pigeon shooting?
Absolutely. Let's take the Fieldmaster deer, for example. It's a 12-gauge specifically designed for deer hunting, featuring a 20-inch fully rifled barrel and adjustable rifle sights.
Rifled barrel? I thought shotguns didn't have rifling.
You're right, most shotguns have smoothbore barrels, but rifling comes into play when you need to fire slugs accurately over longer distances, like when you're hunting deer.
Makes sense. What about a model for something completely different?
Okay, how about the 410 Turkey TSS? It's a .410 bore, much smaller than the 12 gauge we just talked about, with a 25-inch vent rib barrel and an extended full choke, perfect for turkey hunting.
And what about something more tactical?
For that, we have the Special Purpose Marine Magnum, a 12 gauge with an 18.5-inch cylinder bore barrel. It's built to withstand corrosion, which makes it perfect for harsh environments, especially marine ones.
Wow, each variation is really tailored to a specific purpose. I read somewhere that there are even unlicensed copies of the 870 out there. How is that even possible?
Well, the basic design of the Model 870 is no longer protected by patents, so other companies can legally manufacture their own
And
versions.
they do.
They do. A Chinese company called Norinco makes shotguns like the Norinco HP91 and the Norinco JW2000, which are essentially clones of the Remington 870. The JW2000 was even imported and sold here in the US under different names, the Norinco Hawk 982 and the Interstate Hawk 982.
So even though it's not a Remington, it's still basically an 870. That really shows how influential the original design was. You mentioned earlier that the 870 is used by militaries around the world.
That's right. And we're not talking about small, obscure militaries. We're talking major players.
Like who?
Well, you've got the Australian Defence Force, the Canadian Armed Forces, the Finnish Army, the German Bundeswehr, their GSG-9 counterterrorism unit, and their special forces, known as the Spezialeinsatzkommandos.
Wow, the 870 must be incredibly reliable to earn the trust of so many elite units.
It is. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You've also got the Israeli Defense Forces, their elite counterterrorism unit Yamam, the Republic of Korea Navy Special Warfare Brigade, and the UK Special Forces who use a version designated the L-74A1.
Incredible. What about the U.S. military? Do they use the 870?
Absolutely. They have their own designated version, the M870. And it's not just frontline troops who use it. It's also used by the U.S. Border Patrol, the U.S. Department of Education, even the U.S. Secret Service.
The Department of Education?
Yeah.
Really? What would they need shotguns for?
You know, the source material doesn't actually say how they use them, just that they had 27 in their inventory as of 2010. So we'll have to leave that one to the imagination.
Fair enough. I'm guessing the 870 has seen a lot of action over the years.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was used extensively in the Vietnam War, the Lebanese Civil War, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and countless other conflicts. It's amazing to think that a shotgun designed to be a cost-effective alternative ended up becoming such a mainstay in the arsenals of global superpowers.
That's quite a journey. It makes you wonder what other everyday objects out there have these fascinating hidden histories. We've covered a lot of ground already on the Remington 870.
We have, and believe it or not, we've only just scratched the surface.
Well, I'm excited to keep digging, but let's not overwhelm our listener with too much information all at once.
Good point. We'll pick up our exploration in the next part of our deep dive. Welcome back. Ready to dig a little deeper into the Remington 870?
Absolutely. We talked about some of the design elements, but I'm really curious to hear more about how it all works, what makes it tick.
All right, well, let's start with the heart of the 870. It's action. The twin action bars are one of the things that makes it so special. They're a key part of why it's so durable and smooth to operate.
Wait, action bars. Can you explain what those are?
Sure. So the action bars connect the pump handle to the bolt. And by having two bars instead of just one, it spreads the force out more evenly, which means less wear and tear over time. And that's what gives you that super smooth pump action that the 870 is famous for.
So it's like a double-layered system, right? Extra reinforcement.
You got it. Now let's move on to the bolt itself. 870 has this rotating bolt design that locks directly into an extension of the barrel. And that creates a really strong, secure lockup, which basically means that all the force from the shot is directed down the barrel where it's supposed to go and not back towards the shooter.
Safety first. I can see why that would be important.
You bet. The bolt also has these multiple locking lugs that fit into matching recesses in the barrel extension. So you end up with this really rock-solid connection that can withstand the stress of repeated firing.
So we're not just talking about a simple latch here. It's a whole engineered system that contributes to the 870's reliability.
Exactly. And then we have the trigger mechanism, another great example of simple but effective design.
Tell me more. It's fascinating how all these seemingly small details come together to make the 870 such a great gun.
Well, the 870's trigger group is designed to be both tough and user-friendly. It uses a simple hammer design, and the trigger itself has a short, crisp pull, which helps a lot with accuracy.
So it's not all about brute force then. There's a certain finesse to it.
Exactly. And that's a big part of why it stayed popular for so long. You have this combination of robust construction, intelligent design, and a focus on ease of use, which is why it appeals to so many different types of users.
We were talking earlier about all the different variations of the 870. How does Remington manage to make all those different models? Is it just a matter of swapping out parts?
It's a bit of both, actually. A big part of the 870's success is its modularity. Remington can make a wide range of models just by switching out things like barrels, stocks, forends, sights, and even magazine tubes.
Sounds like a big gun-shaped puzzle.
Kind of, yeah. But it's not always as simple as just plugging in different pieces. Some variations need specific machining or changes to the receiver or other parts, like models that are made for those heavy magnum loads. Those might have reinforced receivers or different internal parts to handle all that extra pressure.
So there's more to it than meets the eye.
Definitely. Remington has been refining the 870 platform for decades now, and they really understand how to tailor it to meet specific needs. That's why it's stayed relevant for over 70 years. They keep adapting and evolving.
We've covered a lot on the technical side, but now I'm kind of curious about the 870's impact beyond just the mechanics of the gun itself. Like, how has it influenced society, both here in the U.S. and around the world?
That's a great question. When you have a firearm that's been around for so long and is so widely used, it inevitably becomes part of the culture and history.
Right, absolutely. I think it's time to shift gears a bit and look at the social and historical side of the Remington 870.
Let's do it. For starters, I think we need to talk about the 870's role in home defense, especially here in the United States.
Yeah, it seems like it's the go-to shotgun for a lot of people who want to protect their homes. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a big reason is its reputation for reliability. I mean, when it comes to self-defense, you absolutely need to know your firearm is going to work when you need it most, no matter what. And the 870 has proven itself time and time again.
Reliability is definitely key in that situation. What else makes it good for home defense?
It's just really easy to operate. Even in a stressful situation, the pump action is very intuitive, and the controls are straightforward. So you don't need a ton of training to use it effectively.
And I imagine the intimidation factor is a big part of it too, right? The sound of racking a shotgun is pretty universally understood as a back-off signal.
Oh, absolutely. The 870 definitely has a presence, and that can be a deterrent in itself. But it's important to remember that it's not just a home defense weapon. Hunters love the 870 too, especially those who hunt upland game and waterfowl. And because it comes in so many different gauges and barrel lengths, it's really adaptable to a lot of different hunting scenarios.
I've also seen the 870 used in competitive shooting.
Yep. It's pretty common to see them at trap and skeet ranges, and they even pop up in three-gun competitions sometimes.
It really is everywhere, isn't it? From people's homes to the battlefield. The Remington 870 has definitely left its mark. But I think it's fair to say that with that kind of ubiquity also comes some controversy.
You're absolutely right. The 870 is a tool, and like any tool, it can be misused. Unfortunately, it's been involved in some tragic incidents over the years, and its presence in some mass shootings has definitely added fuel to the fire in the debate over gun control.
It's a complicated issue for sure. On the one hand, you have people who see the 870 as a symbol of everything that's wrong with gun culture. And then on the other hand, you have people who use it responsibly for self-defense and see it as a symbol of their right to bear arms.
I think it's important to remember that the 870 itself isn't good or bad. It's all about the person using it and their intentions.
That's a really good point. Okay, let's step back from the politics for a minute. I'm curious about the future of the Remington 870. I mean, it's already over 70 years old. Can it really last another 70?
That's tough to say. The world of firearms is always evolving. There are constantly new technologies and designs coming out.
But there's something to be said for a classic design, like the 870, that's just stood the test of time.
There really is. And the 870's simplicity, reliability, and affordability, those are qualities that I think will always be in demand. I'm interested to see what Remington does moving forward. Will they keep innovating and refining the 870, or will they eventually come up with something completely new to replace it?
Only time will tell. But I have a feeling the 870 will be around for a while yet. It's just too iconic, too versatile, and too much a part of our culture to just fade away.
I agree. It just goes to show that sometimes the most effective designs are the simplest ones that just work.
We've talked about a lot today, from the 870's history and design to its impact and potential future. Our listener must have learned a ton. Any final thoughts on this legendary shotgun?
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Remington Model 870. I feel like we've learned so much already.
You know, it really is a fascinating shotgun. The 870 is kind of a testament to the idea that simple can be better. It's not flashy, it's not overly complicated, it just works. And that's why it's been so popular for so long, I think.
Yeah, it's a workhorse, not a show horse. Like you said, it just gets the job done.
Exactly. And there's a certain elegance in that, don't you think? In a world that's always chasing the next big thing, the 870 is a reminder that sometimes the best solutions are the ones that have been around for a while.
It's almost like a countercultural icon in a way. Which leads me to a question I've been thinking about. What do you think the legacy of the 870 will be? How will people remember it 50 or 100 years from now? That's a good question. I think it'll be remembered for its reliability, for sure, and its practicality. It's a gun that went beyond its original purpose and became a part of so many different aspects of life. It represents a certain time in American manufacturing, when things were made to last.
It's true, it really does. And it reminds us that even simple things, everyday objects, can have these really complex histories and can leave a mark on the world in ways we might not expect.
Absolutely. The 870 has been a part of so many stories, both personal and historical. People have used it to protect their families, to put food on the table, and it's even played a role in shaping the outcome of wars. It's become part of the fabric of our culture in a way.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've done the Remington Model 870 justice today. We've gone over its history, its design, talked about its impact, even speculated a bit about its future. Our listeners must have a new appreciation for this iconic shotgun.
I hope so. It's been great talking about it with you. I always enjoy diving deep into the world of firearms, and especially a classic like the 870.
And to our listeners, as always, we encourage you to keep exploring. The world is full of things with hidden stories just waiting to be discovered. So stay curious, keep learning, and until next time, remember, even the most ordinary things can have the most extraordinary stories to tell.